Welcome. I'm Janelle Kolaski, a career mindset coach and actor.
And I'm Amanda Dubois, a self-authenticity and prosperity life coach and actor as well. And we're your co-host of Mindset Artistry YouTube channel,
where we teach you the art of discovering and using your mindset
to build a career and life you desire. Well, I'm so excited to have this new episode of Mindset Artistry with the amazing Briana Dudley. Round of applause, yes, to do all of that, snap. I'm so excited. Oh, okay. So we're just gonna jump right in because why not? The first thing, I want to start off a bit light. All right. So incredible. What's one word that you would use to describe you?
I guess it's technically two, but it's one. I would say easygoing is a good word. It's two, but it's basically one. Yeah, easygoing, relaxed. Can use either one, I would say, is a good way to describe me.
I like that. I like easygoing. I'm gonna take it as one word. It's fine. It's hyphenate. It's one word.
Incredible. Yeah.
Well, yes. Thank you for joining us today. I'm so excited to dive in, and I was going through your bio, and I saw that you did the casting for Grey House. Now, I love horror, and this was like the first time that they actually had like some semblance of like horror on Broadway. Tell me about that experience of casting that.
Yeah. So I was actually I came in towards the end. So I helped with the covers and I helped with some of the kids. And it is really fun to do horror just because it is so different. And just seeing everyone's like take on horror, because I feel like you have like your typical horror, like Halloween, spooky, like things jumping out of you. But this was more like a psychological thriller in a sense. So it was interesting seeing everyone's like take on it. So I actually ran like the EPAs for that, and that was really interesting because it was like these people didn't really have context of the show to see like what they interpreted just by the little description we gave. We got like some wild like takes just from all over a spectrum of scary. So it was just like cool to see what people interpreted with like so little. Most people did go more like psychological. I didn't luckily get any like mask or anything of like scary creatures because I can't personally do that. So but yeah, it was really cool. Just find the balance of like spooky versus realistic, because it was supposed to be real, even though there was this horror to it, but that was kind of like the mystery of it. It's like, what is happening? Like, are these people real? Are we in a real world right now? Or is this take place like in a different, like kind of not era, but like a different vortex of some sort? So it was definitely interesting seeing people play that and getting the right balance, because it was a tricky balance. Definitely, but it was a very cool experience. I don't really do theater very often, so it was also just like cool to do that because I love theater so much, and that's like my number one. Like that's what I kind of started in. I started casting in theater like with my internships and my first assistant job, but now I work in film and TV primarily. So just like going back into theater, I was like so giddy. I was like, oh, I get to see monologues. How exciting. So that was like the biggest take of the experience, was just like being back in theater. And also I hadn't done in person anything since pre-COVID. So just being in person with auditions, it was just like, that was wild. And that was just fun because I definitely missed that in-person experience. It was like such a highlight of my job. So being back in the room like that was also really cool. So casting Spooky was like cool. The cooler part was working in theater again and like being in person. I was just like a little giddy kid. I was like, I'm working on a Broadway show.
Even you saying it, I can see how excited you are. It's so good to see.
It was awesome.
That's great. And speaking of like your first job, we talked about this previously, but so tell me, you went to school for one thing and then kind of fell into acting, but you found your first job on a playbill as an intern.
Yeah.
Tell me about that.
Yeah, so I went to school for like theater and public relations, and I did a lot of different aspects of theater. I did acting at one point, very shortly. I did costumes, I did like hair and makeup. and then I did like PR for theater. But yeah, I was just like, I don't really like any of this. And it's a problem because I'm graduating soon. So I went on playbill.com and I just like looked up internships and applied to like random ones. And one of them was like a casting producing internship. And I was like, oh, when I was in high school, I like worked for my children's theater as like a choreographer, and I we did the casting for like our little Annie Jr. And I remember loving like the casting process. So I was like, oh my God, I would totally like dig casting. It's very different than my high school experience of Annie Jr., but there's just a little bit more to it, you know? But I did really like it. And I was like, oh, this is cool. And then I did another internship and I was like really like hands-on in the experience there. And then I was like, yeah, cool. I like this. I could totally be doing this. And they helped me get my first job and I've just been doing it ever since. So yeah, sometimes it's just good to do something random because you never know what you'll like. And that's how I got into it. Because you can't like study cast. I mean, actually, now think you can study casting. I think it is like a major in some colleges, but it's not like really a thing you can kind of go to school for. It's just more like getting into it and getting the experience and going from there, you know?
Yeah, I love that because I was going to say, and you spoke briefly to the fact that, life happens and sometimes you got to say yes to things, even though you
Mhm.
don't know like what can come from it. So I love that you were open to, it's probably because you needed an internship, of course, like the reality of it, like, oh, I
Yeah.
need a job. Yeah. But you were open to the possibilities, like, well, this is what's available, so let's go for it. So I love that. I think that's great advice for anyone out there who has like, a distinctive, like really strong specific goal, is allow space to explore that as well. Now,
Totally. Yeah.
Oh yeah, and it's been fun because I think a lot of the casting directors we've had on here have mentioned that they're like, yeah, I tried acting and then had to audition or was like, this is not for me. Um, so it's been cool to see that transition. And also you mentioned, well, when Amanda spoke to you and everything you told us that you teach quite often, and also we're so grateful for you and all the other casting directors that are like the actor's hero. Like you want us to be sane and let go of the audition and like mental health and everything, which is why we're so excited to have you on this podcast. So I'd love to know more about like why you love teaching and why mental health is so important, especially in this industry from your perspective.
Totally. Yeah. So I love teaching just because I feel like there's so many myths about the industry and casting in general. Like you watch TV shows still 2023, you're still watching TV shows and like casting directors are like behind a table, like not smiling, being rude and like bringing you in and out and cutting you off. And like I remember like when I did theater in high school, I did have directors that were like that and I was like, "Oh, this is it." But it's like that is not the case at all. Like and people don't know that. And so it's crazy. Like I teach and people ask me these questions. I'm like, like, who's telling you this information? It's so incorrect. Like, we just want you to book the role. Like, if you book the role, then our job is done and we can move on. Like, it's a win-win situation. So, like, we want you to be able to do your best work so that you can book it and then we can continue on to the next role. Like, that is it. That's where it comes from. So it's like we don't want like I like to think I'm not like an intimidating person and like people come in and like they're so nervous for my classes. I'm like, am I that's like I feel like I'm pretty chill. Like I don't know, like why are you so nervous for me? And they're like, I don't know, it's just the pressure, like your projects you work on. And I was like, yeah, the projects I work on are cool, but like I'm just like a regular person. It's like I want to bring people in to book my projects. It's like that's all that it is. It's like there's no like high stakes in the situation. Like I also tell people it's like go in, audition, and then leave the audition and just don't think about it until you have to. Like, and people come in and they put so much pressure on auditions. And I think the pressure from like that they think that we like expect from them, they get themselves nervous and then they can't put their best work on it. It's like, I don't expect, like, I just expect you to come in and know the work and put your best efforts in. Like, that's all I expect from you. And like, I hope like you expect me to like come in and like know the work and like know what the team is looking for and bringing you in because I think you're right and I think you have a chance. Like it's like a mutual like as long as I'm putting my best effort in and you're putting your best effort in, like that we're going to get the best results. I'm like, it's a job. Like, I don't know. People like, I feel like there's like, like, I don't know. Like sometimes I feel like people get so nervous and they think we're like these powerful aspects that like determine their entire career. And it's like, I promise you, like, I have like no power. Like, I'm just working with you. I'm here with you. Like we're doing this together. There's no power dynamic. I promise you. So I just like want people to remember that. And I also like do in my classes stress like the mental health, and because I mean I personally have struggled with mental health most of my adult life and teen life, like majority of people, especially since COVID. I feel like everyone's got anxiety, which I respect, and especially our industry loves to shut down. So you get anxious, you know. So I just always stress it's like it's a job, it's an audition. Like you get the audition, that's amazing. But if you don't get it, there's gonna be a million auditions left. Like that's gonna happen. So it's like one, don't stress and hold yourself to it. And don't put so much pressure on the audition, because when you put the pressure on the audition, then it's like the nerves start hitting. Once the nerves start hitting, you're not going to give your best performance. And so I always like to create like a really relaxed, chill setting in my classes. And I want people to know that like that's what's going to happen when you audition for me. It's like a relaxed, chill setting. And we're just here to do our job and to do work. And then we're just continue. Like it's not, it doesn't need to be all this like, I don't know. Yeah, like it doesn't need to be so intense. It's like you're auditioning for a movie or TV show. Incredible. We're not doing brain surgery. We don't need to have that type of stress on us. You don't have to have those type of nerves. If you mess up in your audition, no one's going to die. You'll just redo it. Simple as that. It's crazy. Like it really is that easy. And so people get like so hounded. And I just want to like spread the message. It's like, this is chill. We are like, we're just doing our work, and yeah, it's that easy. Yeah, and like if you do stress and get so heavy, that's when your mental health is going to take a toll, you know? So that's also why I like to focus like it's okay. You don't get a role, there'll be more roles. It's like there's so many different reasons why someone doesn't get a role. It has most of the time, I would say the majority of people come in and they do great work. And we send those tapes and they do great work. It's just there's so many different entities to a role than being really good. Like being really great, you're like, oh yeah, that's all I need. But it's like there's looks, there's height, there's people that have been previously cast that we're comparing it with it. You might have to have like a specific hair type that matches someone else. It's like there's so many little details that it's like the reason you didn't book the role is most likely not because of your performance. I'm sure you gave an amazing performance, and like you just have to go into that. It's like even though I didn't book it, it had nothing to do with my like what I did and the work that I put in. There's little entities that came into it, and it might have absolutely nothing to do with your looks or your performance or the fact that that role got cut or they switched the gender or someone's friend wanted to do it on the like one of the writer's friends wanted to do it. That's happened before, and you're like, oh, okay, like there's so it could have absolutely nothing to do with you. So that's also why I don't like when people stress so much and get so nervous. It's not worth it. It's not. I like to live my life stress free personally, and so I'm always like pushing that. And it's like don't let little things like that stress you. It's not worth it. There'll be other roles, there'll be other auditions, and just like remember that. And so that's a big thing I like to tell people when I teach, and because people like they don't know that. It's crazy. They just put so much emphasis. And I think people do, like they're like, you got an audition, you must accept every single audition you get no matter what. And I'm like, no, if you don't feel like you're right for the role, you can pass. Like that is perfectly fine. And I recommend it. Like I always tell people I want to see, like, I don't really want you to play a role. I kind of want the role embodied in you. And if you don't see yourself in this role and you don't feel it embodying you, you're probably not right for it. And you're not going to be right for 100% of the roles. So just pass. It's okay. But people put this pressure. It's like, you must figure it out. It's like, no, if you put the work in, if you tried and it's just not clicking, just pass. It's like, okay. Nothing, we're not going to hold you to it. We'll remember you for something else that you're right for. Like, so yeah, I want to take the pressure off of auditioning. Because like when I did theater in high school, I would get so stressed auditioning, and like that's why I could never pursue acting, because I can't handle that stress level. But if I can tell people that they don't need to have that stress, then it's like, okay, what I'm doing is worth it. And it's like, I'm little Briana couldn't be helped, but like someone else
Oh
can be helped. So you don't need to feel this way. It's so stressful for no
No,
reason.
we appreciate it. Oh my God. No, and every casting director has said that, right, Amanda? Like, but
Yeah.
Amanda is like the cool one. Like, there was a time where she was literally like talking me off a ledge in Woodstock. Remember? It was like
Yeah.
a weird time. It was like I was finally getting auditions before the pandemic, and then the pandemic happened, and I finally got one. And exactly, like I put so much pressure on it that it's just I couldn't move. I couldn't embody.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Those nerves, when you have like a little camera and you're right there, those nerves, they show really well. So you just can't have them because unless you're like auditioning for a nervous role or something, like they'll show and they'll take over and then there goes the audition. So
really good
yeah.
at that. I mean, if you have, you need an anxious person. I mean,
I mean, I feel that. I mean, obviously, like it's easier said than done. Like,
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
like, oh, don't be anxious. It's like, okay, thank you. But no, like, but actually don't be. It's not that big a deal.
Yeah, no, I think everything you're saying is, I think someone out there, I know I can relate to it at some point in the career because as actors, you're right. We put so much pressure on getting that role because if not now, when? If at all, because you've heard these stories of people 10, 15 years and then they got their breakout role and it's like all this pressure that goes into this is all I want to do. And then and you hear other actors, I've had other actors, their advice to me was live it, breathe it, eat it, everything, sleep with it. And like, I agree with you, but you also got to have some type of life, some type of joy in between, because then you're bringing that art into the audition room, right? That makes you uniquely you. And that's what, like you just said, like, that's what you want to see. You want to see how myself is going to embody the character Willa versus Janelle, because sometimes right, exactly. It's like, what can you bring to this role that maybe wasn't on the page, wasn't in between the lines, So I love that you're sharing that because it took me a while to embody that myself, and sometimes it comes up as well. And so I love that you are such a big advocate for keeping sane in an industry that is so chaotic, especially in today's world. And speaking of that, what is your advice for actors as far as like right now in this industry where everything's a bit unsure? We don't know when the next job is going to come, as far as, the bigger of the industry, and what can we do in between? What is the best way that we can stay creative, sane, and still be able to love this art?
Yeah, totally. I know that's something I have struggled with. I'm doing a lot better now than like when we shut down during COVID. I remember COVID, I really just like couldn't watch TV or movies. I totally like went away from it because it just stressed me out so much, that like not knowing what was going to happen and like that uncertainty. And now that I've experienced it once, I feel like I'm a little bit more relaxed this time ahead. Because you just have to think about the fact, like, yes, this strike has taken is a lot longer than I think anyone planned for. I mean, I remember telling people, I'm like, yeah, July, totally. And now it's like, we're in September. Okay.
Yeah.
I was wrong. And as it continues, like I'm starting to feel that stress, but for a while I was just like, I need to take advantage of this time that I never have. Like, I never get the summers off ever. I spent a lot of time with my nephew and my family. Like, I went on vacation. I had family coming from like out of town that I got to hang out with a lot. And I really just like focused on them a lot. And just kind of put all my energy, and that's something that I never get to do. And just like focusing on my mental health and like things that bring me happiness. Like I went hiking a lot and I went to the beach and just really enjoyed myself. And I did it in like a way that I was trying to like save my money and not go overboard. But you have to think about like, yes, we're dealing with the strike, but it can't go on forever. Film and TV is gonna like there's no way film and TV just disappears. We're industry forever. And one day the strikes will end and there's going to be so many projects that are going to start up again. Like, remember once COVID kind of settled down and the boom, I remember I was working like 3 projects and it was crazy. And like, that's going to happen again. And so we just have to remember this, that this isn't permanent and we will work again. We just don't have the timeline, which is stressful, but take advantage of the free time that we have, because once everything's back, it's like no one's going to have any free time. You're going to be working on all these projects. You're going to have a million auditions. Like, it's not, free time won't exist anymore. And you'll be like, oh, I remember sleeping until 10. That was so nice. And so I like have personally just been telling myself that. And then as far as just ways to stay creative, I just have everything updated. Have your resume and your headshots updated, have all your reels in place, have your website like locked and loaded, and like catch up on TV, see what shows we're filming in New York that are gonna eventually come back if you're in New York, like, and keep yourself updated with that. If you want to like record your own stuff, like definitely had actors send me stuff that they recorded just for fun that are just silly and playful and just kind of took their mind off of things. Like, that's awesome. But also, like, it's okay, I think, to be nervous and stressed a little bit. It's okay to not want to do any of that and to just want to like take a step back, because this is a stressful time and it's like everyone deals with stress differently. So I don't think we need to be creative like 24/7 because we're not working, and we have to be consistently like building ourselves and getting ourselves ready for when the strike's over, just because I don't think that's realistic. I remember in COVID I did that. Like, I was keeping myself so occupied because I felt like I needed to, and then I had a crash, um and that crash was not fun. So I've definitely been like taking it a lot easier this time around. And I think that everyone like should just kind of listen to themselves and like what they need. Like, if you want to stay active creatively, like, do it. Like, find like groups of people who you can do shows with and play readings and stuff, or just like read a script or get those new scenes to audition with. Like, if you want to do that because you feel like you're creatively missing something, totally do it. But if you feel like I'm so stressed right now, everything is tumbling and I don't know what's happening and the unknown is freaking me out and I just need to step back, then like take that step back. So I don't think there's any like clear answer, but it's just like kind of whatever is best for the person. But I know I'm kind of doing like an in the middle thing, because during COVID I like could not be creative whatsoever. It just stressed me out so much. And I'm definitely in a much better place than I was during that shutdown. So yeah.
Yeah, that's wonderful, and thank you for kind of giving people the permission. I think even with like the pandemic, like I know when I just didn't want to like face it, so I literally joined a monologue challenge and did all these things, and that was really great because I was joining community with people from like LA and London. It was all virtual, and but now I've definitely relaxed more. So thank you for that. And while you were speaking, talking about like the reels and headshots and things, it made me think of something that a lot of times we'll hear about is like your branding and what opinions you have on that, because it does matter quite a bit. Because like it kind of took me a while to figure out, like I've noticed for TV, people like to bring me in for waspy characters, which is funny because I'm from backwoods Pennsylvania and people had to dress me when I arrived because I didn't know anything. So like, but then like this film I just did, like Indies, I literally played a woman with a trailer and it felt at home literally. And I was like, I am being myself. But I don't know, like I didn't get called in quite a lot until I had those little fancier photos. But I mean, how much does this matter? I know it's obviously helpful and we can play anything, but it seems like with TV, especially, like there are stereotypes.
Yeah. So I'm not a big fan of stereotyping yourself, just because I think that once you get stereotyped, it's very hard to get out of it. And as casting, that's kind of like, we definitely do, I wouldn't say complete stereotypes, but there's definitely a little bit of stereotyping within our job, just figuring out people's types and kind of grouping them together. So I don't ever recommend actors to stereotype, like kind of let us do that, especially because we know the roles a little bit more. A lot more. We have the scripts, we've talked to the team. So our stereotypings are a bit more correct and accurate than yours, because we have more of a three-dimensional version of them, while your take is more two-dimensional. So I'm not a big stereotype fan. I personally recommend people to have their headshots fit more for worlds. So specifically, like if you're from New York and you're working in New York has specific types of television. We don't over like reach, you know? So you should have a comedy headshot, which is just like a nice headshot that just shows your personality. And by show like comedy, I don't want you like making a funny pose or like winking. Like I don't want that. Like I hate those, to be honest. I want just to see you like a genuine smile, like a genuine laugh, like something like wardrobe that is something you would actually wear, not like your professional headshot shirt. Like if you wear hoop earrings, show those hoop earrings, like little things like that. Just like little quirks that tell me something more about you, because so much of comedy is based off of real people's personality. So I want to get your real personality in your comedy shot. So I think you should have a solid comedy shot. And then I think you should have a couple drama shots. And so New York, you're gonna have your like your corporate CEO type job, and there's many different roles within that world, but something business professional, because you could be CEO, you could be receptionist, you could be that middleman, you could be hedge fund, you could be real estate. Like there's so many different like roles within corporate, but you should have like that professional looking resume that can also go into procedurals, because we love our procedurals in New York. So you should have something that matches both corporate and procedurals, because there's going to be so many jobs, but it should just fit in that world. It shouldn't fit a specific type, because there's so many types and jobs and roles within those two worlds. And then I think you should just have a classic like New York City headshot, like where, you know, New York City's we have a look, and there's New York City shows that are based and revolve around the fact that they take place in New York City. So you should have like a New York City type look. And then I think you should also have like a suburban / maybe like more rural type headshot, because New York films a lot in the Hudson Valley. And so that suburban, like woodsy vibe, we have a lot of that. And then we're not that far from farms if we wanted to do like a more rural setting. So you should have something that fits like suburban rural. And so having headshots for those different worlds, you can play a variety of different parts in them, but it's clear that you fit within the setting that the TV show or movie takes place. So I personally recommend more like those type of headshots than specific, like the girl next door, nerdy, like those, like when people have like glasses and like a polo shirt. I'm like, this isn't you. You're putting on like, this isn't natural. You're putting on a character, and I want to see real people, you know? So that's how I recommend branding yourself. I don't even consider it branding. It's just like, I want to see you in those different worlds as you. I don't want to see you as a character, because I think every role should be an authentic version of yourself. And so you playing a character is not an authentic version of yourself.
Oh, that's so good.
Yeah, so helpful.
So many creative ideas. It's like,
I could do that.
I'm a native New Yorker, and I am like I'm the Bronx girl, and so it comes out. And I've worked in corporate very long time, so I have the corporate energy like naturally. But then my dad was a cop, so like I have that very like cop, and I was in ROTC, so that's great to really be able to explore that without like putting the uniform on or being in an office.
Yeah.
I
don't need to see you. I don't need to see anyone in like a nurse's scrub and a cop hat. Like I don't need to see any of that in headshots. I can tell that you could be a nurse without you being in scrubs. You'd be surprised how many people have those type of headshots. And I'm like, who told you this? Like someone did. Someone told you this.
You still give them a chance, even though they were mistaken.
Yeah, you do. But it's just like,
you're like,
that's like, goes back to my classes. It's like, what information, who is telling this information that you felt like you had to go out and buy scrubs for people to think that you could play a nurse? Like, it's frustrating, but
that's great, because I feel like as actors, we constantly, like I was told early on, get all the uniforms, like especially associated with New York, like get the nurse outfit, get a doctor, get a corporate outfit, like all of these things. And I remember going thrifting or just going shopping and like having that in my wardrobe stocked up, ready to go.
Yeah, you don't need that.
Yeah, I got a military jacket and I definitely use it. It's nice. It's good for these fall. Army green. I used to have my dad's, and then like somebody stole it at a bar.
Oh my
Like,
God, rude.
yeah, rude. His former Marine.
Yeah.
I love that. So you spoke about comedy, so you've done a variety of casting projects. What is the difference between in like a comedy audition to like a thriller to a dramatic, even if it's from TV to film? Like what are the differences that actors should know when either going into the room, when fingers crossed, hopefully will be soon, to self-taping?
Yeah. So the big difference is comedy is definitely a lot looser, and there's a bit more freedom when it comes to auditions. Have worked with a lot of different stand-ups and comedians, and a lot of them, improv is a really big part of their process. So we like highly recommend it, we encourage it, we do it with them. And adding that improv is really what makes your role, your audition, unique. What makes it true to yourself. It's what makes it authentic. So having that freedom to kind of change a little bit of the words to make it truer to yourself is a freedom that you don't necessarily have when doing like a drama or thriller. Those are definitely more to the page. And as if you think about comedy versus drama, and obviously this is like not all comedy and dramas like this, but drama is usually more focused on the story, while comedy is more focused on the people. So when you're auditioning, drama like should be on the page because you're telling a story that we're engaged in. But comedy, it's like most of the time they're pretty like similar stories, like about like an average person with an average life, like doing daily like activities, but we're so engaged because of the person that is kind of leading that story and their encounters. And so that's when, like I said, I love to see your authentic self. It really comes into comedy because if you think of so many great comedians, like their first couple projects are projects that are like loosely based off of their real life, and that's how they kind of got into comedy and then expanded from there. And so I want to see like a character that is like based off of you, like. So with an audition, it's like you get a role, and that role is like a two-dimensional character, and I want to see it become three-dimensional. And how to make it three-dimensional is bringing yourself to the work. It's like the description of who they are is there, and you can do that and do a great job, but everyone's going to kind of do that. It's the people who bring themselves and make it to three-dimensional and have quirks that are true to themselves and feel like we're just watching a person communicate versus watching a person play a person communicate. Those are the auditions that stand out, and you can really do that by incorporating improv into your audition. So that's why it's always highly encouraged. That's like the big difference is drama every now and then will allow you to do an improv, but we don't really encourage it very often. And then like theater, we don't encourage improv at all.
That's great. I was speaking of comedy too. There's a word going around that your cat Moose also loves watching self-tapes. Do we have a casting director? And I see Moose in the background. Do we have like a potential casting director on our hands there in the back?
He loves to make an appearance every time I'm on Zoom, every time I'm watching auditions. He's just like, every time I'm teaching, like people are like, "Where's Moose?" I'm like, "Oh, he's right next to me." Like he loves to come. He's been in my room literally all day. Now that I'm on Zoom, he's out in my living room. Like he's just always making appearance. He loves to walk
like acting like nothing. Yeah. I'm not here.
Yeah, usually I have like when I'm teaching, I have my camera turned so like my back is against my couch, and he loves to like walk back and forth. Sometimes if it's on my table, he loves to walk on the laptop. He loves to show his face. So I was not lying when I said that
I love
he's
it.
into this.
There needs to be a skit about being like the go-to casting director. That needs to be like a comedy skit. I had this thought. I was like, what if there's like rumors around this like it casting director who's rising from the tops and all these things, and no one knows who he is because he stays in the shadows during the audition process. And then you find out it's Moose the cat. I love it. Yeah. I was like,
I have like pictures on my phone of him. Like I'll be watching something and he's so engaged in like the audition I'm watching. I was like, this is so weird. Like, why are you like this?
He was like a casting director in a past life, and he's like, no,
yeah, maybe.
My rabbit jumps into my slate sometimes, and I'm like, you know what? Whatever.
Yeah. Honestly, fun. Like, love to make an appearance. Yeah, like I feel like so many actors who've taken my class like know Moose just because he's always showing up. And again, was in my bedroom the entire day. Just came out now.
Yeah, he heard the camera on. He was like, oh, no, no, I need to show an appearance and they need to know who I
Yeah.
am. Absolutely. I love all of
Yeah.
that. Love all of that. My dogs
Hmm.
start to bark when I'm on, but they're outside right now being walked. So that's the benefit. Um, yeah, going back to the interview now, I was thinking about just, the times of the industry and just where it was to where it is now. What is your hope for the industry once this strike is over for casting directors as well as actors?
My hope is that we won't shut down again in 3 years.
Yes.
Is big hope that will stay running for a while because in my like I don't want to like reveal my age, but I have had two shutdowns in 6 years of my career, which is like crazy. So like half of my career has been shut down. Like we've had shutdowns almost or a third of my career I have shut down. So I'm really hoping no more for a while. But I don't know. I mean, I think like a big perk of post COVID was kind of going to remote and letting self tapes be more of an option because in the past like we never really recommended self tapes, like we would only offer them if it was like you couldn't come in at all and you weren't going to be available before we had to send the link. But self tapes I just felt like they didn't hold as strongly as regular auditions just because when you're in a regular audition you have us and so you're just getting a little bit more info. But now that I think just having the ability to self tape when we've always done self tapes, but having more of the ability to do it, I think just gives everyone a little bit more freedom. And it's like you don't have to commute to our office during rush hour and sit for like, because it's like, the city, it's like you have to give yourself a half hour, even if it's 15 minutes. And then it's like you got to be early. And so now I have to give myself even more time. And it's like an hour and a half goes by and you were in the audition for like 5 minutes. And it's like that I always felt so bad for because I'm like, oh God, like when we ran late, I'm like, oh, people are like, oh, they're just sitting there and they took all this time to get here and then they probably have somewhere else to go. And I always just felt so bad for like, and I'm sure you guys wouldn't call it a waste of time, but I'm just like, oh, like the commuting aspect for such a like a little like just there's so much commuting for like a 5 minute audition. So being able to self-tape and not having to deal with like, oh, now I have to rearrange my schedule so I can go into audition. Like I think that flexibility just gives people so much more time and freedom. And it's like if I'm away, like I can self tape, or I can Zoom audition. And I think that is really great. I do personally miss in-person auditions quite a bit. It was definitely one of my favorite parts about the job, but I do appreciate the fact that self tapes have given people freedom and it's given us freedom too. Like we used to do self tapes like auditions all day and then we would have to do like our catch up on their work on the rest of the day. And sometimes you just have really, really long hours and it was nuts. Like if you like head on in a project, it's like we would work like 12-hour days and like we still do, but it's definitely there's some flexibility. It's like it's one thing to work 12-hour days and then have to commute home. But there's another thing to work 12-hour days in like the comfort of your home where you can like at least eat while working and yeah, and like drink water because you're not like having to like go out and get it. And that flexibility, it just makes it a little bit better. So I do like the freedom and the flexibility that came with post-COVID. And I think we're going to get a little bit of a more of a mix after the strike. Like I think we'll be doing more in-person auditions or Zoom auditions. So we'll have a little bit more of like a happy medium because I know some people aren't into self-tapes the same way. So I think a happy medium will be good for everyone involved. I think it'll just cover the bases. But yeah, I think that will be like benefit everyone where they just feel like they can be represented in every single way possible that fits best to everyone's schedule versus like in-person auditions, I think was harsh for both of our schedules. And I think self tapes, it just we lose little bit of that, like the connection aspect. So I would love like an intermediate, and I think that's what's going to come from the strike.
So that would be fantastic. I'm missing people
Yeah.
in rooms,
I know, like it's so crazy. Just like we hire people and then we go to the wrap party and or the premiere, and it's like they don't know who we are. They never met us. It's like, and we're like, congratulations, and they're like, and we're like, we're casting. And they're like, oh my god, but it's so crazy to not like be there. Like we are there, obviously, but to not like go to a premiere and be like, oh my god, they don't know who we are. Like it's just, yeah, it's just weird to not have that connection anymore, and I definitely miss it. So I would love to be a little bit more hands-on and in the room, but still have that flexibility with self-tapes, because I do think it is important and helpful, especially if you don't live in the city and like, but you live right outside the city, so you can easily work as a local hire, but like you don't have to commute to the city. It's just such a it's a hassle, you know, like
traffic and all these congestion
yeah,
fees that's going to happen next. It's, I don't, we'll take it with a grain of salt. We'll see what happens as it comes along, right?
Maybe at least for callbacks, right? Because I was saying, even I had this callback and they did so like, you have your thing, but then it's like she would talk and there was like a delay. And then I found myself like looking over here as you do. And then, I mean, I booked the job, but then it was weird. And then I got there and the producers were like, yeah, we were all there. Like, it was so, I was like, oh, I felt like embarrassed because, I really like put everything out there, which is great. Obviously they liked it, but it's kind of weird not knowing who's in the room,
Yeah. It is weird when people just like keep their cameras off and you're like, ooh, mystery. I do prefer when people are like, hello, this is me, in the room. I had my first in-person callback like a month and a half ago, and it was crazy. But you could tell people were rusty, like,
oh no.
And I was myself rusty. I myself was rusty. I like thought I packed two like cards and I only packed one, and the like my card filled up, and so then I had to stop midway to like transfer the videos, and a lot of people were late and they got lost and they couldn't find the entrance, and I was like, oh my god, I forgot the stressful part of doing in-person auditions, because like I was the only one there, so I was doing all the scheduling. I'm like, did they not get my email? Did I send the wrong time? Like, I was like, oh god, I forgot this could be stressful. Totally missed my mind. I just remember being like, oh, in-person auditions. Like, I forgot the stress of it. For everyone involved. Yeah, there was like the first 3 people on the schedule were late. And I was like, there's no one. I can't even bring someone else in. Like, they're all late. One didn't show up. She overslept. She slept with her alarm. I'm like, oh my God. Yeah, so
acclimating to
I gotta get used to that again.
Yeah,
I gotta get
that too. I don't even know how I would act. I'm like, people, give me a hug, because
no, everyone was rusty. It was crazy. Again, including myself. I was like, okay, this was a learning experience. You haven't done this in 3.5 years. The next one's got to be better. You got to be like, I thought I was prepared. Nope. There was a lot more I could have done. So I also my setup was different, because I used to have these computers that like they would transfer the videos like straight away, so your memory card never got full because it would just go straight, where you could delete a video because it was already on the computer. So I kind of forgot that memory videos take up a lot of space, and that they also take a really long time to upload when they're not doing it on the fly. Learned so much.
Oh yeah. What is your advice to actors when doing a self-tape? Like, what are the things that we should keep in mind when, hopefully we'll go back to the room, but at home when doing a self-tape? Because we've heard like, let it go, do it maybe a few times. How many scenes do we send if we have it one way and then be like, oh, I have this creative idea and I want to do another? Is that okay to send?
Yeah, I'm a big you should send 2 takes, just because you don't have a lot of context. We're not in the room kind of direct you. And if you see it 2 ways, you should definitely send it 2 ways. If you only see it one way and you're like, I think this is great, then just send the one take. But I definitely recommend sending 2 if you have 2 takes. As far as self-tapes, I think people, again, just like take it a little bit too seriously. As far a good self-tape, I can hear you, I can see you. Your lips are in line with like your words. and you did the right scene. I mean, that's all the technical aspects you need. A background that like is not overly distracting, but it doesn't have to be blue or green necessarily. Back when we did in-person auditions, we used a brick wall. So we didn't even do blue. I've had people ask me, they're like, I have two different shades of blue. Do you prefer one over the other? And I was like, no, I'm not thinking about that. One time I had someone ask me, like, do you recommend doing your close-up slate and then your far slate, or having them next to each other? And I was like, the slates are really for us. They're not being sent to the team a lot of the times. And if they are, I'm sure they don't care that if it's one after the other or if they're next to each other. I would say do one after the other, less editing for you. Yeah, I think people put a lot of emphasis on like the itty bitty details and think that will like make or break, but it's not that serious. I know like sometimes we can't give you that much heads up, and so you do what you can. And again, as long as I can see and hear you, that's fine. As far as like the number of times you do a scene, I personally don't recommend doing it more than like 3 times. I just think that pre-COVID, when we'd be in the room, you would never have an opportunity for the most part to do it more than 3 times. 2 is usually the max. So that's a very specific skill that you've kind of mastered in being able to get it on the first or second take. So I think giving yourself the opportunity to do it like, oh, it's just me recording, let me do it 8 or 9 times. It's like you're not going to get a chance to do it 8 or 9 times in the room. And even if like it's a self-tape, like there might be a callback, and that callback we're gonna have to get on the first or second time. So I personally recommend keeping it at like 3, just to keep that skill up, because I just think it's really important. It is gonna be useful. Even if everything is just self-tape and Zoom, there still will be an opportunity where you'll be in front of the team at one point. So that's like my big recommendation when it comes to self-tapes. But other than that, like, just treat it as an audition. Talk to the person like you would in the room. People are like, do I look at the camera? Do I look at this? It's like, just have the person to your side and have a conversation and use them just like you would in the room. Again, like with the camera, like having kind of mid shoulder to the top of your head is perfect. The same way that, again, you wouldn't do in the room. If you want to sit, if you want to stand, if you want to move, just make sure you don't go out of the frame. But it's the same way, just like how it would be in the room. Just treat it the same, because there will come a time when you'll need those skill sets. Again, even if it's on Zoom, it's still like in live and in person. And so I just tell people to treat it the same. Don't put so much like I feel like people think that because they're doing it on their own that it has to be perfect, like more perfect in a way. And that's not the case at all. Like they're just like they're like, oh, like they think like, oh, I have more time to do it, so I have to like it has to be better than no, I'm not thinking that even slightly. Like, yeah, people just, I mean, I am an overthinker, but I'm not an overthinker in that sense. And so I think people people think casting is just like we're definitely detail oriented, but not in the way that it's not with actors. It's like with making sure all our roles are booked in our schedules, and then we know the payment, like that stuff. We're very detail oriented. When it comes to auditions, it's like we just want the best performance. It doesn't need to be like high, like star quality, big fancy lights, like booking a studio and a reader every single time. Like it doesn't need to be like that. I feel like people have booked off of blurry auditions, really. Like I've done callbacks in where they're like clearly like in their childhood bedrooms. It's really chill. One time I did a callback and the woman was in, I kind of want to say she was in South Korea at the time visiting family, and her Wi-Fi gave out like multiple times throughout the audition. And so we kept losing her, and she came back. She booked it still. Didn't really matter. Didn't affect us at all. She still was able to do it. But I remember she sent me this huge apology, like, I'm so, so sorry. That was so unprofessional. Like, I can't believe, like, I'm like visiting family and I'm in a different country. And I was like, it's fine. We still got your audition. You're good. Like, we still got to meet you and we still got to see you do it in person. Like, we're good. And she booked it. And she was like, I remember she posted like an Instagram thing, like shocked, like telling the audition story. And she's like, I could not believe, she's like, I messed that up. I left that audition being like, there's no way I would ever get that. And I can't believe I did. It's like, yeah, like we know that everyone's working at home. We're working on Zoom. We're working with funky Wi-Fi. It's like we get that. Like we take that into consideration. And I think people forget that we take that into consideration because like we're also on Zoom. Our Wi-Fi also every now and then can be unstable. So it's like it's not just you guys, we're also dealing with it. Yeah, and people forget that.
That's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. Just how like again we put so much emphasis on the audition process, and when we flub, it's like, oh my gosh, I messed up. They're never gonna call me again. It was horrible. My first impression was terrible, and it's like I love it. Briana said she's easy going, relaxed. Like she said at the beginning, right? Yes, yeah. So it's
I personally love a little flub. I love a little stutter. I love a little when you forget and go back, just because those are natural things that humans do, and it just makes your audition more realistic. So I personally like that. I wouldn't like ever stop if someone like flubbed or stuttered or skipped a word. I just think it makes it more real and natural. Yeah. So I if you flub in a word, I don't care. Like I like it.
Yeah, that makes me feel good. I used to always think about my speech because again, I'm from the Bronx and New York, so it would come up, and then when I speak too fast, we blur the letters and words together, and I would be so self-conscious about it. And now I'm just like embracing it because that's who I am. That's a part of me. Like I would bring that to the character. So I love that you're touching on that as well, because I think that's really important for anybody out there. I wanted to ask because it came up for me when I have a question. Sometimes I'm like, oh, I don't know why it's coming up, but I'm going to ask it anyway because it's my intuition. For anyone out there who is thinking about tapping into the casting world, like becoming a casting director, what is your advice for that? And like, where would they start? I know you did, you went for that internship in the playbill, but like, what would be a difference now today and something for anybody who's kind of interested in going behind the camera?
Yeah. It really is like a job you learn through experience and just like being in it. Like obviously there's some aspects that make people like a great casting director, just like their taste and their creativity and stuff. But the actual job, it's not something like you can study. It's something that you learn doing. And so I think if like you're interested in it, I mean, if you're just starting a career, like doing internships is like how I got into it and how I like probably recommend doing it. But if you're like an actor trying to switch over, just like keeping like touch with people, like casting people that you've talked to and audition for, and being like, yeah, I'm kind of interested in like doing the flip and seeing if they like maybe need someone to kind of help out. Cause like sometimes we'll have an intern, sometimes we won't, just depending. Sometimes we'll like maybe you can just it's a little bit more difficult now that we're not in the room, but in the past it was like you could just like sit and kind of watch the process and go from there. I mean, you could still do that, just like see kind of what the overview is. So yeah, like if you're just starting and you're trying to get involved, I think internships are definitely the best way to go. But if you're already like have been working in this career in this industry for a while, just like getting in connecting with people who you've networked with before and just have like auditioned for, taking classes and letting them like kind of just bring you in, like helping like us bringing you and showing you the process. Because I think it is casting is there's definitely like people think it's one thing and it is a little bit different than I think what the average person thinks. So it is cool to see what it's like in it, because it would be surprise you. It's not exactly what you think. There's a lot more to it than just like, oh, we're casting like this project and we're auditioning. Like there's a lot that goes into it that I don't think people realize. So it is definitely interesting to watch, and I'm sure people like if you've made those connections they would love to like bring you in and let you see it a little bit more from like an inside. But yeah, I would say that's like the best way. It's how I know everyone who's done it. They've either like started with internships or they did a crossover just from connections that they had previously made.
It's very cool, and Amanda and I've talked about like wearing different hats and how that, you know, invokes so much empathy and like a better understanding. And you know, Amanda and I coach a lot of people, and I try to remember like to remind the models and hosts and actors I work with, like you're just such a small part of such a large situation, and it's really cool. You know, so it helps take some pressure off, where it's like, it's not just about you. There's a lot that happens before you, and then you're producing. Amanda's produced, and then even when I was doing this film, they were like, "Have you ever, if you want to leave acting and work in production?" Just because I was like so quick response, because I knew the response. Like, you're the most responsive actor we've ever met. You learn how important it is, and my goodness, we could keep talking forever. We have to go soon, but Amanda and I have a few quick questions.
Yeah.
I guess like quickly, like the last thing is, you know, all of us want to respect like the right way to keep in contact with casting. Like we want to tell you we're alive and we're still in the game, but also we don't want to be annoying. So what advice do you have for that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a big email person. That's like the best way to stay in contact with me personally. We used to get postcards like when we were in the office, and it's just like a waste of your money, I think. Waste in paper. I think email. I'm a very, I don't print anything. I love everything on my computer. My computer's very organized, so I keep everything on email. But yeah, I think this is for me specifically. As long as you email me like Monday through Friday, business hours, I mean, our business hours obviously are a little different than average business hours, but not like at midnight. Actually, like not after like 9 p.m. If you email me before 9 p.m. during the week, great. I will respond, I will answer, I will look at your emails. I do feel a little bit different when they're after 9 p.m. or I'm getting them on a weekend. So people email me all different things. They email me like their headshots, resumes, reels, updated headshots when they book something, when it's airing, a clip of something they filmed. People just send me emails to stay in touch. Like, I don't care what you email me. I'm not like specific and like I only want this or this. As long as you're not emailing me like every single day, multiple times a day, I'm fine with like you keeping in touch the best way that you want to stay in touch. And like just don't email me on weekends. That's really all I ask. But however you prefer to stay in touch, I don't mind what it is. People send me dog pictures, just animal pictures in general. Like I'm not like specific in like what I need or don't need. Yeah.
That's good to know. Yeah, respect her weekend. Anyway, everyone out there, respect
Yeah.
everyone's weekend. Unless they email
Yeah.
you personally, do not email them on the weekend.
Yeah, I can't have any like unread emails on my phone. Like it drives me crazy. So I will look at it, but then I'll be annoyed that I'm on my email. So yeah, just don't email me on the weekend. It was great. Or
Yeah,
after 9 p.m. But
I
that feels like
agree.
a fair request.
I think that's very fair. That's very realistic. I think just you are a human being. You have a life outside of being a casting director. Everyone, they all have lives. They all
Yeah,
are
as we
human.
should. We should all have lives
Yes.
outside of our careers. Big
Yeah.
believer in that.
Yes.
Enjoy your weekend. Don't focus on this. Nothing's happening. Unless every now and then it is. But most of the time, nothing's happening.
Yeah, if they need to reach you, they'll reach you. That's just how it is. Like your manager or somebody will reach you, or they will reach you, but be respectful. I think that's the most. I think because actors are just like, oh, she's contacting us. Oh, she responded to my email. That's great, and responding right away. And it's like, wait, just.
Yeah.
As my brother always told me, think twice, speak once, and think about that when emailing somebody. I love that.
Oh, I like that.
Right. One of my things.
Yeah.
Okay, think twice, speak once. Okay, good. I love that. And so email, can I provide that email for them in the comments, or would you like to share that now?
The best email for actors to reach out to me, because I have two, I kind of like an agent manager and I have an actor on. Best one is actors is DUNLAY, which is my last name, DUNLAY, casting@gmail.com. That's the best one to keep in touch.
Perfect, perfect. And what's one thing that has been on your mind that you've been wanting to let actors know lately? Like something that's been ruminating and like actors need to know this. Just keep this in mind. Something that came up recently. Anything?
I feel like I covered a lot of it, but I think when it's important that like actors know if we're giving you all these pages of sides, or if we're giving you like a quick turnaround, it's not us. I promise you, it is not us. It is someone else telling us we need to do this. Like, we never want to give you, like, I personally think like a scene, 4 pages, 5 series regular, great. That's all you need for a first audition to really get it. I don't think you ever need more than that. Callbacks are different stories, but like, if you're getting all these pages, we tried. We tried so hard to not do it. If you have a quick turnover, it's because they added a role last minute, or they realized they like changed the schedule and we thought we had more time when this role was working and now it's working sooner, or we had been auditioning and then they changed like what they wanted from this role. And those are reasons why you have such quick turnaround. I never want to give you a quick turnaround. Like, I know that like it takes time to record a tape or learn an audition. Like, we're very aware of that, and we don't want to do this, but we have to. Like, long pages have to, like, quick turnaround have to. Like, I promise you, no one wants this. Because also it's like you have to think about, okay, so we're sending out all these auditions and they're doing a day, and it's like we might send out auditions on a Tuesday and have them do Wednesday, but it's because we have to send a link Wednesday night, and now we're like scrimaging, like watching all these tapes all day for so quickly because we have to get it done. It's like we don't want to do that either. Like, I like to sit and like take in the self tapes, like in auditions we received. I like to watch them sometimes multiple times just to get a feel. And it's like when you have a deadline that's like, oh, it's due Wednesday and we have to send the link Wednesday night, it's like we don't get to, it's just like a rush. Everyone has that rush stress feeling, and I don't get to like really take in the self tapes the way that I want to. So I don't like it either. It's like you have a quick deadline, but we also have a quick deadline. It's not like you have a quick deadline for us to just like sit and chill. Like, no, it's mutual. So, and it's like I don't want to watch 10 pages of self tape. I don't mind watching 10 pages when you're like in a room and you can see two people like actually interacting, but 10 pages for self tape, no one wants to see that. You guys don't want to record it, we don't want to see it. So it's like if that's happening, it's not us. Like, I think that's the big, because I feel like everyone, especially I know with the strikes, like actors have felt like I mean, there must be someone doing it that people are like upset, but and you guys have that right to obviously should be upset if someone's doing that, because like having 10 pages for an audition that's due a day, like that's crazy for you guys. But it's like I promise you we don't want to do it, and it's because we have to. That's yeah. I guess I can say that, but I feel like everything else that's been on my mind, I said it.
Yeah, that's great. Can you ask for an extension? Like, how do you feel? Like, say, for example, you get that 10 pages and you're like, oh my gosh, I don't know if I can like memorize this by tomorrow. Is it okay to ask for an extension, or does that look bad on the actor?
So the thing when it comes to extensions, it's totally okay to ask for it. It's just sometimes we can't like give them to you, or we can, but we're just like it might be too late. And it's like if you have such a fast turnover, it's because they need this link right away. So it's like, yes, you can have an extension, but it might not, it just might be too late. And that's just unfortunately because of timing. If we're giving you like, and for series regular roles, when the process is much longer, it's like extensions are perfectly fine because we're casting for a really long time. But most of the time, extensions are there because we're working off of a schedule and we need to cast this role by a specific time. So we have to send the link with enough time for the team to review it and hire the actor. So you can totally ask. And sometimes we're like, yeah, totally, like give them another day or two. But sometimes we're like, yeah, you can, but it just might be too late. And it's just because we're on a schedule, like that we have to follow. So totally feel free to ask, and it won't like hurt you by any means asking. It's just like if we say no, it's not because we don't want to give you an extension. It's just because we can't for your tape to be like considered because that's how logistically.
You're doing a job, as we all are too, so I appreciate that, and thank you. So thank you so much for joining us. I will leave it with this. Like, what is your favorite quote or thing to say, either dealing with like when you're dealing with a challenge, or when you're in the class dealing with an actor who's like, I'm so overwhelmed, I don't know what to do with my career, help me.
I'm always like it's not that serious. That I say that a lot. Like I feel like sometimes I stress my bosses out because I don't personally like to get stressed, and I don't let like things that are like overwhelming get like I don't let myself get to that point where I'm stressed, just because I never do good work myself when I'm at that level. So I always try like stay pretty calm and collected, and it stresses people out to see how calm and collected I can be. But it's just like I can't work well with stress, so I don't allow myself to get it. So I just have to remember like I'm not it really like yes, this is a job, and yes, it's serious, but it's like I'm not saving any lives. No one's gonna die from my mistakes. Not that I'm trying to make mistakes, but if something were to happen accidentally, like no one is going to be injured or hurt. Like, so I always remind myself like it's not that serious, so I don't get to the point where I'm stressed and I'm freaking out, because then that's when mistakes actually happen, and like when I don't do the work I need to do. But if I stay in like a calm, collected, like just like manner, I do my best performance. And so, and that's why I this whole thing I like have been saying that like be like allow yourself to be chill, because you will put on the best work, and it'll definitely be a lot better than if you're stressed. So yeah, I just am always like, it's not that serious, we're gonna get through, everything's gonna be okay. Like just keeping that mindset, and it always does, everything always works out. Even my most stressful projects where I've worked like 14-hour days, and it's like there's never like there's just not enough time, we got through it. Like, so yeah, I think that's just like the best thing to keep in mind. It's gonna be okay. We're gonna get through it. It's cool. For actors, not that serious. If you don't get this audition, there'll be another one. For us, if you don't get stressed, you'll not mess up and with your work. So yeah, I tell people that a lot, and I believe in it, and I follow it.
Good. Yes, yes, yes. It's not that serious, everybody. It really isn't.
Yeah, no.
It'll always work out. Me and Janelle are always saying that, like, you know, as much as we stress and overthink things and overanalyze as beings and like, well, coulda, shoulda, woulda, all the things, it's like trust in the process. If you love what you do, keep going. Because you made that decision earlier. Like you said, you know what? Auditioning wasn't for you, being an actor, but you found the art within that, which is being a casting director, and you're so excited and you love it. And look at that. Yeah. You gave yourself the freedom to say yes to exploring. So I love that. Yeah. Any last words, Nelly?
No, I'm so happy. This was just so wonderful. Thank you for hanging out with us.
Yes.
Thanks for having me.
Yes, I'm so thank you so much.
Yeah.
Of course. And happy to be here.
Yeah, we'll see you guys next time in the episode of Mindset Artistry. Until then. Ciao for now.
Ciao for now.
What are your thoughts about this episode? Drop it in the comments and let us know what you want to dive into next. Subscribe, like, share, and click the link below to book a free consultation. And we'll see you next time.